Yeah, they put it in the, in case there were questions, and I wanted to have that.
Everybody want to settle in? We'll get started. We're going to start right on time. This is great. All right, so 6 o'clock, November 7th, school board meeting. We get started with roll call. I started in the middle last time and messed it up, so we're going to start roll call where I missed. Sir, and we'll work our way all the way around and away.
I'll start, Jesse. Sean Moynihan, Principal, Sunapee Middle High School.
Keegan Reed, Assistant Principal, Sunapee Middle High School.
Jody Bergman, Principal, Sunapee Central Elementary School. Terry Gear, Director of Student Services.
Ed Anderson, School Board. Jim Borelli, School Board Member.
Scott Ricksman, School Board.
Jesse Tyler, school board.
Russ Holden, Superintendent.
Ellie Wessels, Business Administrator. Peter O'Connor, for the Secretary.
Excellent. That went better this month. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first actions are approval of the school board minutes. Minutes from October 3rd, 2018, school board meeting. Looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd, 2018.
All right, got a motion by Ed. Do I have a second?
I'll second his motion.
All right, second by Scott to approve the minutes of the October 3rd school board meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Second thing is approval of school board meeting minutes for non-public, October 3rd, 2018. Have a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes, October 3rd, 2018.
Thank you, Ed. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
All right, Mr. Jim for a second. All in favor of approving the non-public minutes from October 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
This is unanimous, thank you. Third, approval of the school board meeting minutes from the SCES.
I'll make a motion to approve the SCES minutes of October 24th.
All right, thank you. Second?
I'll make a second to approve those minutes.
All right, motion by Ed, second by Scott. All in favor of approval of the subcommittee meeting minutes? Say aye. Thank you. Unanimous. All right, agenda review. I think we are all set. We're going to move right into public forum. So I just want to remind people of our policy. It is for citizens. You get 15 minutes total, so 3 minutes. If you run over, it takes away time from somebody else. So we're going to run a timer to make it equitable and fair. But anything that's positive or negative relating to naming students and staff doesn't comply. But we love to hear from the public. We get some wonderful challenges and questions. So we want to commence. I saw a wave of a hand. Minette, if everyone could just introduce yourselves.
I'm Minette McQueen. I'm a reporter for the Intertown Record. I'm also a resident of Sunapee. My publisher just wanted me to let everybody know, so it's in the minutes, that there was no article on the last school board because I couldn't hear the video. And she just wanted that in the minutes, that's all. So.
Yeah, and I was going to actually say this before you got up, so I appreciate your bringing it up because it's on the record. And to address it more specifically, we talked about the audio with the equipment that we have here. So it seems to work fine in this room. We've got our mics here. It's going to be reviewed as what the potential issue is when we go to the elementary school. We like to go in between the buildings, but we apologize for anyone who couldn't hear it, for you to be able to report on it. And so we acknowledge that there's something to look at, and the staff's going to look at it. So we're accountable to you to come back with a solution and resolve. Dan?
It used to be that everyone had to step up to the microphone and there's no longer a microphone, and that worked well. I'm just questioning why you continue not to have that.
With the new camera, it's been working. You're captured fine, and he checks the audio. We just need to make sure that the same thing in the large cavern of the library is doing the same thing. But I appreciate it, yeah. So we have a little less formality with the mic, because now this camera catches it. We can certainly return to that. But the concern was Manette's voicing an inability to report because of the audio quality on the last meeting in the elementary school. So we'll look at that. We apologize. So thanks for bringing it up. Other comment? Don?
Don Betancourt. I just want to say that I was disappointed again to not see any attachments to the agenda. And encourage everybody on the school board to go to a selectmen's meeting. They're so much more interactive, so much more informative, because the citizens and voters understand what you guys are looking at up there while you're looking wise. We like to look wise too. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Don. No other motion for comment? We're going to close the first public session. We have a presentation from Sandra Owen, our occupational therapist. So we are going to shuffle on down and join you while she presents.
So I'm Sandy Olin. I'm an occupational therapist, and I've been working for about 28 years in the field in a variety of different roles, but primarily in school systems throughout New Hampshire. And I just wanted to give you some information about what an occupational therapist does in a school system, and then specifically here in Sunapee. I just thought I'd start by expressing what occupational therapy is, because not everybody is familiar. But it's one of the only professions that help people across their lifespan to do things that they either want to do or things that they have to do. And we use different activities of daily living, so things that people are already doing or want to be able to do, so we break them down, figure out what the barrier is to it, and then try to help either build up those skills that they need to be able to do those tasks, or to modify the tasks to help individuals do that. So we enable people of all ages to live their life to their fullest, helping them promote health or prevent something, to live better with an injury they might have, or an illness that they might have, or a disability that they may have. And then in schools, a child's job or occupation is to be a student. So we're looking at what social skills or strengths or needs that they have, what do they need to do academically within a school environment, and also into that transition from school to beyond, and what they're going to need to do in life. So I know sometimes it can be kind of confusing with the term occupational, and when we're talking about students. So the roles of occupational therapy in schools, we collaborate with teachers and staff, whether it's a bus driver, or it could be just the paraprofessionals, administrative staff. We evaluate students, we screen them, we assess their skills and determine how their skills are impacting their education or their ability to perform in the educational environment. We provide consultation and suggestions, adaptations to carry over their skills throughout their environment. So it could be on the playground, the lunchroom, the classroom, it could be on a field trip, in an assembly. Some students might be having difficulty. We modify senior class trips, just anything that all students would be participating in. We make sure that the students that are having difficulties would have access to that as well. And then we might do some co-teaching or some direct service, working directly with students to help them to develop those underlying functional skills, and to learn a task or to learn how to do something in a different way. So, you know, I don't teach handwriting per se. I never went, you know, in school when I was in college, and in college now they don't teach occupational therapists how to do handwriting or keyboarding. But what we do if somebody's having trouble with some of those kinds of tasks, we break down the skills that would be required for them to do, to be able to do handwriting or keyboarding or any other task in the school. And then we look at why that's difficult, and then what can we do to make it easier for them or to make them learn the skills that's missing. So it's a lot of problem solving. What are the barriers for their students learning, and what would it take for a student to learn that material or their skill, or that skill? So what are those component skills? So is it a muscle strength or a muscle tone issue? Is it a posture issue? Are they using a lot of their energy to be able to, to be able to sit up straight and stay in a chair and not fall out of a chair? Are they having trouble with coordination or motor planning? So some people know what they want to do, but then when it comes to able to time it, sequence it, and get the right force, they're having difficulty with that part of it. So we're looking at, is it a visual attention to a task that they're having trouble with? Are they not able to keep their eyes on the task that they're trying to work on? So then cutting would be really hard. So is that an eye problem? Is that coordinating your eyes and your hands together? Is it just attention issues and regulating your body? So what are the barriers, or what's the skill that they're having difficulty with? Do students need the visual schedules, tasks broken down? Do they need checklists? And then self-regulation, is it trouble with trying to coordinate, you know, that they have too much energy, or their brain's moving too fast for their hands to keep up, or that they might get really frustrated too quickly and not have the coping skills to deal with challenges? Do they have the grit that they need? So what are the barriers there? Do they just need a different type of a pencil, different type of seating, a different place to work, different kinds of scissors that would help them achieve that task? So when working with children, have they just not learned that skill yet developmentally, or is it that we need to accommodate for that, especially as kids get older? We're not going to work with somebody in high school on some of these things, but what could we do differently for their environment to help them? Some different areas that occupational therapy addresses is motor areas. Again, we talked a little bit about those different things. Is it that they don't have the full range of motion to reach for something or to hold something in their hand? Is it an endurance issue? So over the years, we've seen a change in the types of students that we have anywhere in the country that are coming to school. So they have different abilities now than they did before. So are they as active at home, or do they have the same, you know, are they out climbing trees and, you know, playing on playgrounds? Are they having more of a sedentary life? Are they doing more screen time, which can affect how close their vision works? It affects their muscle strength and control. They just don't have the same experiences that some of us did growing up. Do they need adaptive seating? Do they need something that wiggles, that helps them to stay alert and attend? Is it a ball seat? Is it a hokey stool? Is it just a cushion? Do they need a place where they stand to work? Sensory, some of that stuff I just talked about fits into sensory. So making sure their basic needs are met. Some of our students are coming to school that don't feel safe in other environments. They might not have the food or the drink or the warmth or the shelter that they need. All those kinds of things are the foundation skills for your sensory system, and then that's what we build upon it. So after that, then you can start to work on some more of the cognitive and the higher level skills that students need. But their basic sensory needs have to be met first before we can move to higher level thinking or functioning within a school environment. Are they overly sensitive to something? Do they really notice those tags on their shirt or that seam in their sock, and that's where their attention is, and that they don't have their attention on their education? Are they seeking out extra input? Do they need to be doing more movement to stay alert? So think about yourself when you're driving in your car at night, or if you're on a long trip. If you put mint in your mouth, you're chewing gum, you're listening to the music, do you roll down the window or make the AC go on to change your environment so that you're more alert? Are you sipping on you know, some type of a drink? So there's a lot of different things we can do to regulate our bodies as adults, but kids were asking to come and stay a lot of times into, you know, 4 walls, sit down for an extended period of time. The demands of what we're asking kids to do are really high, and so are they ready for that? Or if they're not ready, what is that barrier, that breakdown? So that's what we're doing in room problem solving with that. So we could provide alternatives. Do they need a different space to work in? Do they need earphones on when other stuff's going on in the classroom? What other equipment or supports do they need? So some students at the elementary school go down to the OT room. There's different types of equipment in there. It's built into their schedule. A variety of different people access that room all throughout the day. There's a group of students that have sensory stations in the morning before school starts. They come in, that's where they start their day. They get the input that they might need. Other kids come mid-morning, right after lunch, in the afternoon, whatever the students need. We're breaking it down. So it's not always me that's in there. Other staff members are trained. So we use that environment. We do different things in the hallway. Vision is another area that people might not think of that an occupational therapist would look at. Your eyes are controlled by tiny little muscles, and so what I'm looking at is how are your eyes working together? Are they able to sustain that focus needed at a certain distance for a long enough time to read a book? Are those words jumping around? Are you skipping lines? Those kinds of things. So it can impact math as well if you're not lining things up right. It impacts attention and self-esteem and their ability to have that endurance. So is comprehension worse at the end of the day because of all the extra energy and focus that needs to go into just those basic things that we don't think about because we don't need to. Technology is another area that we work a lot with in occupational therapy. It's different ways to learn, alternative ways to express what students know and to show their knowledge. They can just speak into different devices now to tell what they have. They can have an audio recording or a video recording to show what they want. They can use an app or what they know, I'm sorry. So students learn in a different way than a traditional classroom. So education's changing. Things are different now than when I went to school and maybe when some of you went to school. And our world is different. Things are immediate and we need to be keeping pace with that. But sometimes our students need extra support or things differently. So we look at problem solving those things. I help a lot with making sure that kids have accessible educational materials for them. So do they need bigger font? Do they need in a black background with white print? Do they need a different version of a text? That kind of thing. And then another thing that a lot of our students are using, if they qualify, is Bookshare, and that provides digital versions of printed books, so they can change the size of the font, the contrast, that kind of stuff. They can also listen to it. Sometimes kids need to be listening to it read and following it along when it's highlighted, and so that can help. Here at the middle high school, and actually at the elementary school too, we're doing a lot with functional or life skills tasks. We're taking what they learn into the real world, so reading stuff when they're out shopping, looking for signs, practicing job skills or recreational skills, things out in the community, and then practicing those soft skills, the things that you need, like your social skills and your executive functioning and social emotional stuff, regulating yourself. And then, again, I think I talked a little bit about this. We do a lot, there's a vision club actually at the elementary school in the afternoon. So occupational therapist plans the activities, oversees that. Other people help the students to practice stuff on a daily basis so that they can make better improvements. And we work on a lot of foundation skills. So let's see. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we're wanting to make sure that they have accommodations if students need that. So we look at, occupational therapists look at a holistic approach, the whole student and the needs that they have. do a lot of problem solving, adapting the environment, and teaching those foundation skills. And we are a medical-based, scientific-based profession, so a lot of our things that we do are rooted in the science. I don't know if I've captured, if there's anything else that, no? All right, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Thank you for doing the presentation. You answered a lot of my questions as I would think you would answer it. But as far as training the teachers, like for the elementary and the high school, like what is a percentage and very rough of like how many teachers are trained to provide the services that you spoke about?
Well, I think,
like in classroom settings?
I would say the majority of the teachers at the elementary school have had some type of contact, and so I feel like I'm trying to build capacity, so I'm trying to take the stuff that I know, and then I'll teach teachers how to do some of the different things with students, and then they have that in their tool, their tool bag to then start to.
So you do all the training like yourself with the teachers?
Yeah, and we do a lot of collaboration, so a lot of times then teachers will see something similar and then be able to do some of that for their kids.
I think that's really good. I think that's great, yeah.
And so we've started, and one of the things that I started doing a lot with is executive functioning, like time management, planning, organizing, and then it's just something we've seen more and more and more of a need, and there's just been a lot of emphasis, both at the elementary school and then now here, of coming up with bigger school-wide or district-wide systems so that the kids then have those skills too. And so then that's not now just an OT thing, that's like everybody's doing
that's
that
really
thing.
good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just if you could go back to a little bit more insight and top like 2 or 3 things you're saying where you said the kids are very different even from a few years ago. Can you share a little insight? Because some of the folks watching this are past the time that they might be experiencing that age group.
Okay.
What are some things that you see if you look back, a comparison of now versus even 5 years ago? What are some of those differences you're seeing?
I think so. Some of the differences that I see now from the past is that a lot of kids aren't as ready to start school the second that they show up at the door, and it could be for a variety of different reasons. They might not have that, even just the posture, the ability to sit in a chair for a period of time. They just don't have those skills, whether it's just their core strength isn't the same or their coordination isn't the same. There's attention is often a different thing that kids don't seem to have as much attention span, and they're expecting things to happen really quickly, so maybe they don't have that grit or that ability to wait long enough for things to happen, those long-term goals and stuff like that. And then I think a lot of times kids don't have the hand strength, so a lot of kids are not crawling as long. A lot of times infants are in buckets, we'll say, like baby carriers, or they're in, a walker or swing or something that is providing that support, and so they're not practicing a lot of that on their own. We see a lot of kids that sit with their legs in a W sit, so it's really spread out. They're trying to get a wide base of support because they don't have the hip strength and stuff. So there's a lot of developmental things that students are coming in with that they didn't have before. I think there's a lot of chemicals and stuff in foods that 20 years ago people weren't dealing with. And those kinds of things really affect your brain and how you're controlling your emotions and your attention and things like that. So there's a whole lot of factors.
You've done a nice job shedding insight into some of those factors and challenges.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you feel with all the different things that's changing, as you say, it's a changing world that we're behind on, or we can't provide services to the students?
I am very blessed to work here. I've been here for 10 years. I think that it's just important to keep moving forward with new practices and learning new things and making sure that we're staying on top of the curve. And I think for the most part we're doing that. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything that we really need to focus more on. I think just having the kids have the ability to practice those skills and us not doing for them, but really scaffolding and getting it so that they're, being held responsible for doing some of those things and having the time to do that.
When do your services come into, excuse me, play? Is it based on a coding system or parental or teacher referral?
Okay.
Where do you pick the kids up and why?
So that's a great question. I work on lots of different teams with regular ed teachers and paraprofessionals and a variety of people in general. So whether it's our social emotional learning team or the playground, outdoor committee, there's a variety of different teams that I work with, which would be for all students. And then if I'm going to work specifically with one individual student, then there's a whole referral system. And so the parents are notified that there might be concerns. Students might try certain general activities or programs first for a few weeks, and then I might get a referral to do a screening, and the parent signs off on that. The parents would give permission before somebody goes to a sensory station or the vision club, and then, or if I need to do an evaluation. So there's a whole procedure of paperwork that needs to be involved with some of that.
So when day one opens, you really don't know exactly what the plan's going to be.
So
you do for some children.
Exactly, for some students,
Yeah.
And then by being in staff meetings and different things, we come up with other areas of concern or things. A few years ago, we noticed that a whole pocket of like 6 students in one grade needed a lot of help with executive functioning skills, self-regulation and stuff. So that's not something that you would have all 6 kids in our small district go to occupational therapy for. It seems like then it's something that we need to be doing more systematically or systemically to work on. And so that's kind of how a lot of our programs and things have developed here.
Can I just piggyback? OT is also involved at the preschool level for every student, right from the get-go. All of our students, typical peers and special ed students, get OT right from day one.
Yeah.
And
Also, most of our teachers incorporate sensory breaks throughout the day in the classroom. So between activities, they're having sensory breaks, where the kids have a movement break. They use there's a web-based tool called Go Noodle that they use, and it's the kids are doing jumping jacks or they're doing a little dance, and it's a 2 or 3 minute thing, but it gives them that sensory input so that they can then settle for the next activity. So a lot of it's happening in the classrooms with all kids.
If you have kids transferring in, do you get records from other schools and know what the problem may be as they're coming in? Do you do anything special for students transferring in, say grade 4 through 6, 8, something like that?
It depends on whether if they come with the paperwork, if they're on an IEP or had an action plan or have a 504, so those are the different kinds of paperwork, then we definitely would get involved in that and start day one for those students.
What I've noticed, I have a first grader and we talk about feelings. She comes home, talks about emotions and how to treat other students. So as it does really start day one. I mean, they're actively telling them how they should feel, how are you feeling now, and what they can do. So I've been pretty happy about some support.
And that's a good point. We started with some students that were having trouble with identifying their feelings and stuff, and then it just evolved to that was something that needed to be part of our whole curriculum. And so we did zones of regulation, and there's colors that kids can relate to, and then building up those toolboxes and strategies for what can they do when they're frustrated or angry. And now we're moving, beyond that and into the social emotional learning and, being able to read how other people are feeling and what should we do in reaction to that and stuff. So that's a good point.
I was just curious how the challenges and issues may differ, in the middle upper school, or do you primarily focus at the elementary level?
No, I really work preschool through 21. So we do have a group of students that stay through 21, and they're more in the community-based kinds of teaching. I would say that the hardest thing probably is scheduling wise to find, for any student to find the time if they need to see me outside of the classroom. If I can't go into the classroom and work within that environment, scheduling it so that it's least disruptive to what's going on. I mean, kids' education is happening all throughout the day, so if they're out of the room with me or doing something separate, then they're missing something that's going on in the classroom. So we work really hard to make sure that we balance that, and that what they're getting if they're not within the classroom is well, outweighing what they're missing. A lot of times up here I'd see somebody during a study hall, we do before school. If they have like a study skills class or supported class, then I might see them during that time. And I oftentimes work with the teacher. I had a couple of, like 3 students one year in a math essentials class. They really needed to work on a lot of the executive functioning stuff. So I went right into the classroom and was able to work with the teacher, with the students in small group, and it was something that benefited everybody. And so that just made it much easier so I did that for a couple of years, and now the math teacher just does it automatically on her own, and I think that's what we've seen throughout all of the different initiatives. I think the sensory stuff started individually with breaks, and then like Jody said, now it's just part of the culture, it's just built in, and then if then there's difficulty, then I might step in and help to problem solve some of the things. But I think that's been the beauty of being as involved in the classrooms as possible. And then the kids are there, and all the kids are learning from it.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Do you have an update from our school representative? Did you get one?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Sean, we can probably fill some gaps if needed.
So next up is school updates. Are you filling in for our student rep who is
I will.
playing dodgeball?
Yes, I can.
You want to go ahead?
Start with that?
Go
okay.
for it.
Blaze, who's been very diligent, and Blaze is one of the nice things he does. He actually emails all the kids prior to the school board meeting, and just lets them know we're having the school board meeting and kind of informs them. So he's done a nice job on that, and you've seen he's been here a lot. But he is also a member of the senior class who's doing the dodgeball tournament today. So if anybody has a kid at the school, I just got word there's over 100 kids at the dodgeball tournament. So it's really neat. They do the dodgeball tournament every year. We've talked about it. It's nice that you walk through our middle school any morning at 7:40, kids are throwing dodgeballs at each other, and miraculously, I'm going to knock on wood here, we rarely get an office like any real issues. Every now and then we might have 1 or 2 a year where somebody's throwing the ball too hard, but they really joined in pretty well, and we, like I said, over 100 kids there today, and Blaze is very actively involved with that. My daughter, who's a member of the senior class, she and her friends were rushing off and saying we don't want to get in trouble with Blaze by not being there on time, so they were rushing out to make sure they were throwing their roles. I'm also sure that Blaze would speak to the boys soccer championship. So great turnout this weekend. We were fortunate they beat Newmarket, but just to see how many community members made the trip down to Manchester, it was evident just the support that they had. Blaze actually made breakfast. Blaze isn't on the soccer team, but made breakfast for the whole soccer team in the morning. So just a very nice thing. Mr. Iacopino, Coach Iacopino, who's been coaching here for longer than I've been here, so certainly 20 years or so. This is the first boys championship in soccer, and so it was a special week. The kids were all very supportive. I've got some school things, but I feel very comfortable Blaze have been sharing those 2 events.
Great. As long as, since you have the floor, do you want to
continue?
Sure.
In addition to that, November 19th and 20th, Beauty and the Beast is Fast and Furious as they are doing their rehearsals. We have next week close-up. So we have 26 students who will be attending Washington, D.C. They've raised over $7,500 to help offset the cost. Mrs. Reed and Mr. Frederick will go as chaperones for that trip. So they spend the week in Washington. They take a day tour to Williamsburg as well. But really good week where they learn a lot about the government. It's an interesting week always to go down there. As midterms just finished up, so it's often an interesting week in Washington, and they get to meet the representatives and get some good practice with the legislative process. So it's a good week, and the teachers are very good about providing them work. So lots of things are still going on, but give them time to do that. We have a Veterans Day Appreciation Breakfast Friday morning. We do that annually. It's a nice event, and as part of our school improvement plan, wanted to work certainly on STEAM activities, and I'm going to let Mrs. Reed share a little bit about some STEAM activities that took place over Halloween.
Sure. So we've started a new class this year called Community STEAM that I think you have heard about prior. But we have our tech ed teacher with our art teacher co-teaching, and about 22 kids in this elective. So prior to Halloween, they met with representatives from Project Sunapee, a nonprofit in town. They were asked to prepare games for Halloween, and so the kids were in groups and put together 7 different presentations of games that they had designed and created a budget for, had prototypes to demonstrate how the games would work, asked the Project Sunapee board members to decide on which ones they would contract with them to build for Project Sunapee, and then they built them. What was especially nice is then the kids came and volunteered at Halloween in the harbor in the Sherburne Gym this year, and ran the games while they were there. So that was certainly above and beyond the expectation of the class, but just showed that personal attachment and commitment they had to seeing it through. The games are really well done, and some you are bringing out kind of on Friday mornings in the Commons that the kids can play, and that's been a fun social piece. So a really great connection with the community with that STEAM class. Right now they're working on building a set for the fall play and helping with the backdrop. And then they're continuing to look for projects and keep expanding ways to take the design model and bring it to practical applications in our community. So, and I'll just also mention, I don't think Blaze would have said it himself, but Blaze was selected as the DR Good Citizen. So nominated by our faculty, voted on by the student class, and he has earned that distinction.
The Halloween event was a lot of fun. I was there as a pumpkin contest judge, and it was neat as somebody with this year hit that line where our son doesn't dress up anymore. It was fun to go down and see how much was going on, all the games, and just got to see a lot of parents and got to meet a bunch of people. So it was actually a really neat community event, even though that maybe that wasn't necessarily the intent. But it was neat to see all the students helping the younger kids with the games and everything. It was a nice community feel to the whole event. So.
I think we had about 25 middle high school volunteers.
Yeah.
About Friday night to Sunday morning to pull it all together. So that was really great of the kids to give back. A lot of them remember doing it when they were little, and they gave back. Yeah,
it was neat. There were several families of 3 generations there, and it was very, very warm and welcoming. So it was well done. So, thanks for the update. Jody?
So along with the work that Sandy talked about, we sent several staff members last month to a social thinking conference, which provided them some strategies in improving student social skills, including perspective taking and social problem solving. And that's another way that we're trying to build capacity, have more staff be able to support more of those student needs. They're very useful with every student at one point or another. Our fall drama club will be performing for friends and family on Thursday, November 15th at 6 p.m. Our drama program works a little differently. In the fall, it's open to any student who wants to participate so that they can kind of get an idea of what it's like to perform, put on a production, what it all looks like, what the demands are. And then our spring production is audition and people earn parts and there's costumes. The fall is a little bit more shorter, little mini plays within the whole event. And then our students participated in a cereal drive organized by sixth grader Mia Cahill. It's her third year doing it. She started it when she was in fourth grade, and she wanted to continue this year, so she came down and mentored our fifth graders so that they can carry on the tradition going forward. So on Halloween, we all paraded to the town hall, and we provided 264 boxes of cereal to the food pantry. So
That's great.
good job for our families and donating for that.
Do you have optimism, or does she have optimism that the legend will continue without her doing it?
I think so. I think it's become like our Halloween event, and so I think it will.
Yeah, it's a lot of boxes of cereal. That's great. You get the win. That's very cool. Thank you. And for the close-up trip, you said 26?
26 students.
Do you have a sense of how many students other schools that send around here send? That seems like a really great number.
Yes, so there's students from, while we're there, there'll be students from 14 other states in attendance. We'll actually bring one of the larger contingencies there. There should be between 125 and 175 students in the whole group while we're there. But for a small school in New Hampshire, we have incredibly high participation. So our representative from the close-up that works with us always says, if somebody in New Hampshire can get that many kids, then, you know, she tells like her Boston folks and Philadelphia folks and Austin, Texas folks, you can rally some more. So.
Yeah, I think of just growing up here and having done the program, I think of most schools would be happy to have 4 to 6 go, so I'm just laughing at 26 of a very small population. That's wonderful because it's a big shared experience. It's an intense, mind-blowing experience too, so to have that many that can do it together, that's wonderful.
In the 80s and 90s, we were more like 10 students, 7, 8.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, moving right along. Superintendent update, please.
Sure, I'll be brief. We've completed our Homeland Security updates. Homeland Security came down, sat with Chief Cahill, Chief Ruggles, myself, and that. Mike Montour and each building principal went through a review of our emergency management plans, took some notes, and then we'll have reports back to us on some recommendations moving forward.
Great.
Just been busy between negotiations, facility meetings, policy meetings, budget. Soccer game, great win. Saturday was great to go to, even though it rained a little bit and it stopped, and it rained a little more and it stopped, but it seems to be what it does around here now. Spent the day out in the rain at the voting booth, getting some information up regarding our subcommittee work, and just things going well. Continue to get out in the buildings as well.
That's great. Thank you. Policy. So the policy committee has been active, so I want to make sure that there's a lot of work represented here, so I want to make sure we honor that, because you guys have been vigilant. So what we can do is, why don't we do a motion on the first reading, and then we can go to, if you get a second, you go to a discussion, and you can make any points about any key changes you made, so that you have the opportunity to do that, and then we can go ahead and then vote. I think that's the best way for you to be able to just comment specifically. Does that work for you?
Sure.
So, in good practice, somebody is going to make a really long motion so that we can get them on the record and into the notes. So just can I get a motion for first reading on the policies that have been updated?
I'll make a motion on the first reading of the policies that have been updated. AC, non-discrimination, ACD, GBED, JICG, tobacco products, brand, use, possession in and on school facilities and grounds. ADB, GBEC, drug-free workplace and drug-free schools. BEDG, minutes. EDCA, crisis prevention and emergency response. EHB, data and records retention. EHB-R, local records retention schedule. GADA, employment references and verifications prohibiting, aiding, and abetting of sexual abuse. JCA, change of school or assignments, best interests. JEC, manifest educational hardship. JIC, student conduct, and KEE, website, accessibility and grievances.
Thank you. So, second for discussion, please.
Make a second.
Second. Okay, so motion by Ed, second Jim. So now we're in discussion. It seems like the best place. So without going into the minutia that changes in the State House drive for this and being compliant, there any particular things within this journey that you would like to call out? Either of you?
Well, as we did over the summer, the group met a couple of weeks ago. Sean, Jody, Tara, Kelly, Russ, and myself, and basically discussed the New Hampshire School Board's guidance on how any recent legislative changes might impact the current policy, or perhaps create the need for new policy. And as a point of reference, if you go to the district homepage and right in the center top area there's a link to the agenda for this meeting, and there's actually a couple of PDFs attached to that agenda if you scroll down to the bottom of the agenda. And so that is attached if you want to read up on any of this stuff. It's posted before the meeting, and it'll be posted after the meeting. And really, policy development is one of the chief functions of the school board, so it is important stuff. Given that, I'll give a brief kind of overview of the key points. There were 2 new policies that are included in the first reading that Ed read off. The GADA, Employment References and Verification, that's a new policy to fulfill the requirements of Every Student Succeeds Act. And basically, if there's a current or former employee that is suspected of sexual misconduct, the district cannot recommend that employee to another school. So basically, that helps decrease the risk that a school system is going to pass someone like that on to, another school system, which I think is pretty important. So that's a brand new policy that's out there. The other new policy is the KEE policy, Website Accessibility and Grievance, which basically addresses the ADA legal requirements around website accessibility for those with disabilities. And actually, I think in a few months here, we're going to roll out a new website. We've secured, I think, some federal funds to do that, and that new website and the host of that website is going to have all of the embedded tools necessary, to comply with this. So that's something exciting, that we have to look forward to in early 2019.
Yes.
So those are the 2 new policies. The others are basically just revisions on updates to existing policies. There's 3 or 4 policies that have to do with drug-free workplace, drug-free school, tobacco products ban. All of those policies have basically just been updated to incorporate language regarding e-cigarettes and liquid nicotine, which is apparently a growing, issue not only in schools but in society. The MEDEX policy, BEDG, has been updated to make sure that first and second motions are recorded in MEDEX, which I think is something we already do. But now that is part of our policy as well. The crisis prevention and response basically cleans up, actually withdraws a couple of existing policies and consolidates it into the one new policy that's listed on the agenda, the EBCA. And I think the key component of that is that the Department of Education has to upload these emergency response plans to Homeland Security by September 1st every year. There's some tweaks to the data records and retention regarding the age of students that we have to keep records for. And the only other thing, a couple of the policies around change in school assignment. There's 2 existing policies, and the language of those has just been cleaned up to more cleanly distinguish between the 2 policies. One deals with change of school in regard to a student's best interests, and the other one addresses manifest education hardship. So I know it's a mouthful. I try to make it as brief as possible, but again, this is one of our bigger responsibilities as a board. The information is posted, it's part of the agenda, it's attached to the agenda. It's there, you know, for the public and members of the school community to look at. Did I miss anything?
No,
Any of you guys that
well
were at
done,
the
Scott.
meeting, would you add anything?
That was very good.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's things, you know, and just helping the community understand what the different roles and responsibilities of the school board are. There's a lot of work in the subcommittees. People think it's just this meeting and nothing happens in between. The meeting is actually the easiest part of the job and the least time consuming and often challenging, but also fun, and there's sharing, but there's a lot of work to have the policies, the buildings and grounds, all those other things working. So I think that was a great update. I'm not sure that all subcommittees are quite as vigilant with their policies, so it's great that you are that active. So we had the motion and the second. So I want to go all in favor of accepting the first reading of the policies that we're not going to make Ed list verbatim again.
Thank you for
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor. Thank you very much. And thanks for the update, Scott. It's helpful. Second readings. Can I get a motion for the second readings for these two, and just have you read them out?
Yeah, I'll
Jim?
make a
Thank
motion
you.
for the second readings. ILD-R, Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment Supporting Forms. IMGA, Service Animals in Schools.
Okay, second for discussion?
Second.
Second by Ed, thank you. Anything specific about the second reading documents that you guys want to make comment to? They've been gone through, they've been cleaned up, you're happy with them, we're going to go forward. Okay, all in favor for accepting the second readings of those two? Okay, all in favor, thank you very much. Action items. So we need a motion to accept the resignation letter of a teacher, Mary Beth Callahan. We're sorry to see her go, and we wish her the absolute best, and thank her for her service, and absolutely wish the best for her family and in her next steps. She will be missed. So can I get a motion for accepting Mary Beth Callahan's, our SMHS special education teacher's resignation?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Scott.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, thank you. Next one is approve the proposed list of SMHS extracurricular stipends. So as a newer board member last year, I was overzealous in trying to comply with record, and I read all of them, which I saw about halfway through the list by everyone's face that was maybe taking it a little too far, but that's how you learn sometimes in public. So we have the listings. It goes about a page and a half, and this is a standard policy for the board. This comes up through staff and administration, and then we need to approve it. So why don't we go with a motion, and second, if I can get it, and then we can see if there's any discussion, and then we can proceed from there.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2018-19 SMHS extracurricular stipends list.
All right, motion by Ed. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
All right. So for discussion, if it helps for everybody who doesn't read through all of it, this is relating to Alpine coach, substitute coordinator, mock trial advisor. We have for a small school, we have abundant options for our students, and these are the roles that people take, 0.5, 0.33 roles to facilitate those and make those available. So it's a long list that you have in your packet for the public. Anything, questions or comments from the board members? All right. All in favor of approving the proposed list of extracurricular stipends for SMHS, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. All in favor. Thank you. Next up, we have approve the proposed special education life skills teacher for SMHS. So this is approving Robin Prue to be the new life skills teacher for SMHS. You get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Robin.
Scott? Have a second for discussion?
A second.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions or comments from the board?
Is this an added position or is it a new position?
So you have the resignation. This is filling the
That's
resignation.
filled out right
Yeah,
away.
it fills it right away.
Level, the same thing, exact same thing, okay.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Wash, but it
it's
was a-
pretty close.
It's a one for one, basically. Okay, thank you.
So just so everybody understands, if it's not clear, that so when you have somebody leaving, you have somebody hiring in for the contract that covers that year, then there are the different steps, education levels and all that. So that's relevant to what they plug into, which is the last year of the contract that we had before. But it's great to see that important role. You know, it's unfortunate that it opened and reasons why. It's great to see it filled already with somebody talented that everybody in the hiring committee was supportive of, so I appreciate that. So all in favor of approving the new special ed life skills teacher, Ms. Prue, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Make sure I'm sticking with formalities here. Next one is approve proposed spending of up to $3,500 from the SCES Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of retaining bond counsel from Drummond and Woodson Legal Firm. So I'll give some insight on this, and then Russ, you can add if I miss anything. So I'm going to give an update on the SCES building subcommittee in just a minute. We're going to follow the agenda. The main thing with this is we have a reserve fund. In order to go, if we go for a bond, we need to have bond counsel. We need to pay the bond counsel. So this is a standard part of if we go for the bond. So I'll explain the if when I get to the update. But this is something we have to do lockstep to make sure we're getting everything in place. Because again, the goal is for the subcommittee of Jim and I to come back to the board in January with a proposal for modernization and renovation of the elementary school. This has to be in place now, so we have that to move forward. Till we get to that, if the whole board accepts the subcommittee's proposal and we go to bring this to the voters in March as a warrant article, this has to be started now in order for that to be. So that it is an up to. It doesn't mean it's a definite going to be $3,500, but this is a standard part of the procedure. Anything you want to add?
Nope, just that there's a real specific, as you stated, outline of dates that need to be met and insurances, and again, whether we are going to present this bond in March or not, we have to start this process in November.
Right.
One way or the other, so it's not like we needed to wait after the bond potential was passed, but we needed to start this process now.
So we do this now, it goes to next month, and we're on cadence with the process. So it is $3,500, it's from a reserve fund, and it's not guaranteed that we're gonna spend it or need all of it, but we need to do things in order to keep things moving.
You currently have $188,000 in that.
$188,000 in that fund. Sorry, I should have started with that. So can I get a motion to approve the spending of up to $3,500 from the Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed spending up to $3,500 from the SCES Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund.
Appreciate it. Do I have a second?
Second, that's all.
All right, motion by Ed, second by Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Information items, starting salary adjustments, substitute teacher, paraeducator, and custodian. This has been a recurring topic with hiring and what pay is for